An advantage of Gaston Glock's striker-fired design is a very safe firearm action that, generally speaking, cannot go off unless you pull the trigger. Glock was the OG manufacturer of this design, differing from hammer-based single-action and double-action triggers of predecessor designs. However, because the trigger's main function is to release the internal safety mechanisms of the weapon, as well as to release the striker itself, the trigger does not actually reset the striker, meaning that these designs can have very light trigger pulls. The result is a design that's similar to the single-action pistols like the 1911. The reciprocating action of the slide is what actually resets all of the fire control components. So if you dry fire train with a laser cartridge which does not mechanically reciprocate the slide, the trigger on the pistol will not reset between dry fire shots. This then requires an outside force to cycle the firearm's action, which usually involves a user dry firing, racking the slide, and firing again. This is at best barely helpful, as training this won't actually help you in the vast majority of training drills that you might want to run. It is at worst introducing weird behaviors that might confuse you in an actual high-stress situation. I don't know of any empirical or even anecdotal evidence of the latter happening in a self-defense situation, but I can say from my own experience, I've had it happen twice where I did not chamber around fully when making ready during a class because I got used to pulling the slide back 1/4 of the way from dry firing constantly with this method. So it's for this reason that I've largely discontinued the use of laser dry fire cartridges and have instead adopted specific tools for dry fire training with my striker-fired handguns. There are two main solutions that I use for dry fire training with Glock. The first is a CERT 110 pistol, which I've reviewed in detail in a previous video. The CERT 110 is a replica of the Glock 17 in both size and similar weight. It features a 2-stage resetting trigger, similar to the stock Glock trigger. If you're interested in this product, I have a detailed review where I previously reviewed this. But the CERT 110 is a really solid alternative as it is essentially replicating a full-size Glock 17. I use this over dry fire training with my actual Glock handguns, primarily because it is convenient for daily dry fire, and I don't need to reconfigure my other pistols constantly just to get my reps in every day. It's also the safest way to dry fire train, as there is absolutely no risk of a negligent discharge. My second method is to use my actual Glock pistols with a tool called the Dryfire mag. When using this method, you need to be absolutely certain that your firearm chamber is empty. You must not have any ammunition in the dry fire training area, either in magazines or even loose ammunition. You also must be extra careful to still follow every universal firearm safety rule, meaning that the CERT 110 is a better choice for practicing more dynamic home defense training, since it's impossible to have a negligent discharge, being that it is a replica. I have a full video review of the Dryfire mag if you're more interested in this product, so I recommend you check that video out. However, specific to laser dry fire with Glock, I'll go into the Dryfire mag features at a high level. The Dryfire mag works by placing pressure on the Glock trigger bar, pushing it forward. The Dryfire mag itself has an internal disconnect to create a wall very similar to the Glock wall prior to releasing the trigger. Then the Dryfire mag will break like a Glock trigger and reset. This breaking action makes a loud enough noise that it will trigger a sound-activated Dryfire laser. Thus, you can use Dryfire mag in conjunction with the Dryfire laser to have a similar feature set as the CERT 110. This will allow you to train with your actual pistol configuration, with only shortcoming being that you cannot practice reloads with this setup. It's also important to note that the rail-mounted, sound-activated laser light is the only product that I've successfully been able to pair with the Dryfire mag. Ultimately, the Dryfire mag in conjunction with the Dryfire laser is the better solution, but it is a bit of a pain as you'll have to reconfigure your pistol with the rail-mounted laser every time that you want to dry fire. It also may be a problem for practicing drawing from the holster. Which option is best for you ultimately will depend on your personal needs. I'd say that both the Dryfire mag and the sound-activated laser with the CERT 110 are excellent options, and there is a case to be made for owning both so that you can get the best of both worlds. Safety and convenience with the CERT 110, and more practical training with your actual firearm with the Dryfire mag plus laser. I hope this video was helpful to you. As someone who builds dry fire simulators professionally, like Project Mars, marksmanship augmented reality simulators, these are the products that I have found that work best for my personal training needs. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in a new video next week.